What is up, tea homies? Today we're going to talk about when to use a teapot, different types of pots and brewing vessels, how to pour with each of them, and some accessories to help you to just make it a little bit simpler. My name is Dart, one of the co-founders of Teaware. On this channel, we do teaware education like this video here, tea reviews, and then a podcast around tea. Because we don't really use teapots in the US that much, a lot of times people get teapots and kettles confused. We think of the kettle that you put on your stove, but they're two different things. Teapots are only designed for steeping the tea, putting already hot water in it to brew it. Electric kettles are definitely going to be the easiest to use. In our house, we heat up our oatmeal and different things with it. It's way more convenient than having a stovetop kettle or anything else for that matter. There's a few different types of brewing vessels we're going to look at today. Two of them are for loose leaf tea, one is for matcha. The first one is a Gaiwan, or a brewing cup. With this, you're going to put the loose leaves right in, put the boiling water in, cover it, and pour. The next is going to be your chahu, or your teapot. This is probably the most conventional of what we're already familiar with using. I would say the one distinction here though is there is filters built into the side of Chinese teapots, so you don't need anything to block the tea leaves. But other than that, it's just a smaller version of what you've probably already seen. The last one is the chawan for matcha. This, you're going to put the powdered tea right in it, but you need a couple other things just to make it a little bit simpler when you're making. If you just have this bowl, it's functionally just a bowl. So what's the point of this video? Why do we care about pouring with the teapot? Well, two main reasons. One, to get the best quality tea, but then two, balance and comfort for your hand, wrist, ergonomics, and not burning yourself. Let's talk about a Gaiwan first. So first you want to set your lid. Once it has tea and water in it, you want to set your lid to that correct aperture and then pick it up to pour. It's going to make it a lot easier than if you're trying to move it around while it's in your hand. As a general rule of thumb with the Gaiwan, you want to tilt it as much as you can without getting tea leaves that fall out of it. So smaller teas like greens and reds, you're going to have a more closed off aperture. Pu'ers and white teas, you can have a wider and more open aperture because those leaves are going to be bigger. But you still have to be careful, because if you open this too much, that steam is going to burn the palm of your hand when you go to lift up the Gaiwan. So it's a little bit of a balance, but as open as you can without leaves falling out and burning your palm. The next thing is grab the rim of the Gaiwan, not the body. This is an extremely thin porcelain Gaiwan. It's by far my favorite set of Gaiwans to use, but because it's so thin, if you were to touch this when it had boiling tea in it, it would burn you. Not immediately, but you would feel it. So make sure you grab the rim and then don't fill it above where the Gaiwan starts to flare out. That's the other thing. If you fill it above that point, the rim is also going to get hot. If you put too many leaves in a Gaiwan, what's going to happen is it's going to start to splash around on the outside if you're pouring too high. But even if you're not, you're probably going to want to fill it just a little bit higher, and that's going to cause that problem we talked about before. So just take a pinch out. Like if there's too many leaves after like a rolled oolong opens up or a pressed white or something like that, just literally take a pinch out, put it in your wastewater bowl, and then pour it again so you don't have to worry about it. Two main ways to actually hold it when you're pouring it. First is the 3-finger method, the sanjifa. So that's going to be middle finger, thumb, and then pointer finger over the top and pour. The next is the grass method, or the shoujuafa. This one, what you're going to do is put your ring and middle finger on the bottom, your thumb on the top, and this one you actually pour towards yourself. The 3-finger hold is definitely the more general approach. You can do this on pretty much every single type of Gaiwan. My hands are pretty big, so I can do the hand grass method on this, but typically this is going to be better for shorter Gaiwans. Next, we have a teapot, and first thing we're going to do is just completely throw out the lid. Somebody spent a lot of time making that. Don't actually throw it out. The reason for this is we're looking to find that balance point. You want to lift up that pot and see where does it want to fall. Most pots are going to want to go less than 90 degrees. Some are very intentionally intended to pour less, like these ones from Mark, but that's because his handle is so high and a bunch of other things that go into that. What you really want to see though is where is that natural falling point, and then adjust your pouring so that you get to that point when you're pouring. Does that make sense? Yeah. There are some pots that regardless of how you pour with them, they will pour smooth. I would say those are beginner pots. Then there are pots that require a glide pour, where you actually have to start slower and then get into the full speed, otherwise it will start to chug. This is a case-by-case basis. You're just gonna have to pour with pots and see which is switch. But fundamentally, if you get a pot that's chugging a lot, start with a slower pour and then move into it and see if that helps. The lid button and air hole, I feel like, are something that we all struggle with originally. And the reason is a lot of times these pots have small lid buttons in the air holes and you don't want to cover it and worry about stopping the... First of all, look at the pot. This pot, for example, has a rim around the top. So I actually put my finger right on the edge of that instead of on top of the lid button. Now, words of caution with this. These pots are going to get very hot, so you want to just put it on the edge. There's also some pots that are designed to look cool and are not designed to be comfortable. And whether or not you want to pour with that pot is your decision. If you like it, you like it. With the Gaiwans and brew cups, it's pretty standard, 2 seconds. I mean, yeah, some will be a second and a half, some will be 2.25, but really, like, it's a 2-second pour. With teapots, depending on the spout, you could have a 15-second pour, a 20-second pour, or a 6-second pour. The simplest way to tell that is gonna be just the size of the spout. Obviously, there's a ton of other things that go into it. The way that the filter is designed on the inside for the type of tea, the shape of the body, the size of the pouch, and if there's any ton of things. But the easiest one, if you're just looking at a teapot online, how big is that spout? And do they tell you? I mean, they could just tell you how fast it pours, like we do on our website. It's still a teapot, but side handle pots are distinct enough. I feel like we really should kind of talk about it because pouring with them is a good bit different. There's two basic holds. The first on any straight armed pot is just gonna be to grab it like a pencil. And all of Master Kummin's pots do have that no-touch lid design, so honestly, I forget and I'm not used to it, but you're gonna wanna grab it with your middle, pointer, and thumb, and then use your pointer finger on most pots on the top to hold the lid. You don't have to, and that'll feel awkward on pots like these because they're designed for the lid not to fall off. Then these pots require a little bit different, and these are honestly my favorite side handle pots because I like using my thumb. I feel like it gives me a little bit more control. So you put your thumb in the base of the handle and then 2 fingers on the inside, and then you pour like that. You can use your middle finger and forefinger. You can use your ring finger and forefinger. It doesn't really matter. The angle from the spout to the handle really affects the way that you can pour a side handled teapot. A pot like this one that has an acute angle is going to be better for pouring to yourself. If you try and turn your wrist, it doesn't go. You literally can't pour for somebody else like that. So when you're pouring in a Gaiwan for matcha, this is something that I literally almost always forget. Get that strainer on top. It's gonna make it so much easier because the matcha powder is gonna be finer, so when you're whisking it, you're not gonna get clumps. Matcha's a little bit different because it has a 2-step pour. The first pour is just gonna be enough to saturate the powder into a paste. Then you use the whisk to actually get that paste nice and smooth, so it should already be smooth in the paste form. The rest of the water is gonna get it to the proper ratio and then give you that room to actually aerate and get the tea ready for drinking. Paste, whisk, get it even, add more water, whisk, drink. So at the beginning of the video, I told you there were some accessories that are gonna help make your life a little bit easier when you're pouring tea, and I've been using both of them throughout this video. The first is going to be a pour cup, and honestly, any glass pour cup works. You could have a more grounded one like this. You could have your kind of classic, elegant one like this, or something a little bit fancier like this one. But honestly, get a glass one to start. You do not need a clay pour cup, and the reason is you wanna see the color of that tea. I don't recommend glass for pots or cups because it's a little bit more intimate, like the cup when it touches your mouth. And then the second is a tea towel. And tea towels are great because if you don't have a tea boat or a tea tray like this one, all your spills will get soaked up right into the tea towel, and then you can use it for wiping up after. Pouring and spilling is totally a part of the tea practice, and honestly, I use these probably more than any other accessory besides a pour cup. Now that we can pour well with every different type of teapot, check out this video to get to that ever so satisfying tea drunkenness without the headaches, stomach aches, and the rest. All right, I gotta go drink some more tea.